Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Nicole Hummel, a ceramic artist based here in Eugene, and we're going to continue our exploration of the life cycle of a plant and using the modeling dough that we made in our first lesson to continue exploring this process and model the stages of this plant's life cycle. As we discussed last time, a life cycle shows how living things grow and change over time. Last lesson, we sculpted a seed, a pumpkin seed, and the germination process when the seed develops into a seedling. Our focus today is on the next stage of the plant's life cycle, maturation. This is when the plant develops its leaves and flowers. I will be demonstrating how to use the modeling dough to show this development. And we're going to take a moment before we begin to play with the clay to just become aware of our surroundings and ourselves so that we can be more fully engaged in this process of making clay. So find a spot to sit that's comfortable. Take a deep breath in and out. You can close your eyes if you like. And then rub your arms with your hands. So rubbing both sides, kind of warming up those arms a little. Now take a moment to look around you. You can look anywhere around, turn your head all the way to one side, all the way to the next side, and find something to look at that you enjoy looking at for whatever reason. And take a moment to just look at that, take it in, this sense of sight that we have. Take a deep breath in and out. Now close your eyes and find a sound that you can hear, something that you can hear that's near you. Take a deep breath in and out. Now you can open your eyes again. So taking a moment to zero in and focus on each one of our senses can be really helpful to be more in your body, help you be more aware of how you're feeling. And then we can be more in the moment, more connected to what we're creating. So thank you for following me along in that exercise. We're going to begin by setting up our workspace now. So organizing our materials. Today, you can see that I have my little sculpture from last time, my little leaves, the stem that sprouted, and these roots that went down. We're going to need the green modeling dough, the yellow modeling dough, and maybe a little bit of the orange too. So you can keep all three of those nearby. Also super handy to have a little toothpick or some kind of tool to make little marks or indentations in your clay. A little spoon can also work for this, or a plastic knife. So these are all of our materials. We're going to set up our workspace now. So I'm going to move all of these balls of clay over to the side of my workspace, move my tool over to the side of the workspace. And I'm going to keep my seedling here right at the center. Let's move that a little bit more to the middle. So once you're all set up, that was step 2 there, setting up our workspace. We are going to begin sculpting the leaves and vines. So this is step 3. And what I want to share first is that as a seedling continues to grow, it develops more leaves. The leaves absorb sunlight, which is transformed into nutrients for the plant. This is called photosynthesis. We are going to sculpt some more leaves for this pumpkin plant here. Since a pumpkin is a vining plant, this means that as the additional leaves grow, the plant also sprouts small tendrils, which grow longer into vines and allow this plant to expand and move outwards to the sides. So there's a little bit about photosynthesis, the reason that plants need leaves so that the plant can get nutrition from the sun, and also about the vining plant, the nature of the vining plant and how it moves out to the side by expanding its tendrils, which then grow into more vines and more leaves. So we're going to start by sculpting some more leaves. You can look down at my hands here. I'm going to take a small piece of clay and we're going to start creating some little tendrils here. The first two leaves that a seedling sprouts are very tender and small. And as the plant continues to grow, it develops larger leaves that are more defined. Here's a little tendril here reaching out, and we'll sculpt a bigger leaf for this one. So I'm going to take this piece of clay, start to press it flat. And then we can start to add some texture to this leaf. And I invite you to explore too on your own here. What do the mature leaves of a pumpkin plant look like? There's often a lot more definition and texture in these lobes of the leaf. If you've decided to sculpt a different kind of plant, check out what those mature leaves look like. What are the indentations like? The veins on the leaf. How do they attach? So we're going to attach this one right here. So here we have the plant growing, maturing, developing, able to gather more and more sunlight from the sun, able to gather more and more sunlight that it then translates into nutrients for the plant. We can continue to create some more tendrils. At this point, our plant is going to kind of be mostly on the ground. Often when a plant is first growing, especially a pumpkin plant, it might kind of lift up off the ground for those first few days of maturing. But eventually, most of the plant is very close to the ground. And for the purposes of our lesson, it's a lot easier to keep the vine on the ground. So we're going to continue sculpting some more mature leaves. I can use some more clay here. And you might find that your clay at this point, it's about a week old. You might find that your clay is starting to get a little bit dry. Take advantage of, like you can see that actually even when I'm sculpting this, I have some little crumbly pieces that are coming off. You can really take advantage of your workspace, of your surface that you're working on to really press it back together. I'm going to do some more decoration with this toothpick here. We'll attach this one up here. So you can see the vine is continuing to grow. The roots at this stage are also getting much more established, which I didn't really discuss yet, but as the plant continues to grow, the roots continue to grow as well. So we can, in a moment, use some of our yellow clay to add to this root structure, which is going deeper into the ground, wider across the ground. So I continue with this decorating the leaves. And if you enjoy this part of the process, let yourself really soak it up and enjoy it. Explore what kind of texture you can make. How smooth can you get those edges of the leaf? Okay. So let's add a little bit of roots here. So the clay the yellow clay, creating a little coil, pinching that clay together. Model how the clay goes farther. And just for your visualization, again, this here is where the ground level is. You can see where my toothpick is. That's where the level of the earth is. These roots are underground. And the plant, the leaves of the plant and the vine of the plant is above the ground. And each of these little roots has lots of little tendrils as well that come off of it. All right, so there's our root system kind of expanding, establishing itself, making this plant really well anchored in the ground. You can see it. And then here we have the vine growing, little tendrils sprouting, continuing to grow the plant. So here are a couple more little tendrils, because the plant continues to send these out, and eventually we're going to have a flower that forms. So turning back now to step 4, the flowering of the plant. I'm going to talk a little bit about this stage of the plant's life cycle, which once the plant is mature, as we kind of developed and sculpted the mature leaves, the vines and the tendrils, the very established root structure, the plant flowers. Depending on the plant, there can be many flowers, many different shapes, many different colors, many different sizes. And you know, there's a reason that flowers are beautiful. These flowers are going to be the way that the plant attracts a pollinator so that it can become a fruit. A pumpkin plant has big yellow-orange flowers. So let's take our yellow and orange clay and we're going to make some flowers for this plant. You can look back down at my hands here. Let's see, we're going to start with the petals. And so you can choose whichever color you like. The color is kind of a combination of yellow and orange. So if you feel excited and interested in kind of mixing another color that's maybe a combination of these two, we can kind of return to that first lesson of class where we mix these two colors together. I took a pinch of the orange and a pinch of the yellow, and I'm just going to squish them together just like we did the first day when we were adding the colors to our clay. So using my hands, moving back and forth, squeezing it between my hands, mixing this yellow and orange together. And it kind of creates a marbled pattern. If you want to keep mixing it, it'll turn into kind of a peach color. I actually kind of like when it's kind of patchy like that. I'm not sure if you can see that in the camera. So I'm going to leave it just like that. And I'm going to start sculpting the petals. So I'm going to break off a small piece of clay. When a flower begins, it's just a very small bud, usually kind of green, and then it slowly starts to open up. And what's at the center of the flower that's really crucial for the pollination is the pistil and the stamen. And these allow the plant to become pollinated and form a fruit. So add a couple petals here. Oh, you can't see here. Let me move this to the center. So I've got one petal that I put down, and then I attached a petal on the side here. And I'm just creating a kind of flower that will open to the side, and we'll add one more petal, maybe two more petals. So pinching that flower on. You can see here. So it begins very, very small, closed, and slowly as the flower blossom matures, it opens up. On the inside of the flower is a pistil and a stamen, often kind of a green color. Attach that into the center of the flower. And then we'll take this flower and we'll attach it to our plant. So there's one flower, and now we'll sculpt another one. If you didn't make enough of that yellow-orange clay, feel free to use maybe a combination, maybe you can make one petal yellow, one petal orange. Making another petal here. In the case of this one, I only have enough clay of that mixed clay to do one petal in the mixed yellow and orange color. I'm going to do a yellow, attach it. And all along, as this plant continues to create more blossoms, the plant continues to grow, continues to sprout new leaves, continues to expand its roots. But the focus of the energy is mostly on the flower. So at this point, the plant is starting to think, okay, how am I going to create a fruit here so that once I'm not around anymore, these seeds can continue. Creating some petals here. We'll make one more out of the orange clay. Attach that petal on the outside, and we'll make a stamen and pistil. Attach those to the inside of the flower. And then we'll attach this flower to the plant over here. And then we'll do one final one. And this one, let's make a very tiny flower. Very, very small one. We can make this one a little bit more closed. Say it's a kind of younger flower that's not really opening yet. So when we attach the the petals, we'll keep them a little closer together. You can see I'm keeping them a little more closed here. Again, doing that combination of the yellow, some yellow leaves, some orange leaves. Petals, I mean, some orange petals and some yellow petals. And in this one, because the plant is still so, the flower is still so tiny, the pistil and the stamen will be kind of hidden in there. If you want, you can do a little tiny, tiny pistil and stamen. Still in there, but not fully matured yet. Keep that flower kind of closed up, just like this. And we'll attach this one to the plant right here. So there we go. There's our plant. We have the roots here that have expanded. We have the first leaves of the seedling. We have the mature leaves. And then we have 3 flowers on here. One that's very open, one that's kind of halfway open, and then one that's still very, very small, about to open. And that's where we'll stop today with our flowering plant. So in our next class, our final lesson, I want you to take a moment to sit back, close your eyes, and just remember the process of doing this. You take a moment to think about, what was my favorite part of the process? Maybe it was the first exercise where we looked around and found something we like to look at. Maybe it was sculpting the petals of the flowers. Maybe it was creating the indentation on the leaves. So we'll take a deep breath together. So thank you so much for tuning in today and for participating. Feel free to, in your free time beyond the exercise of this class, feel free to investigate the anatomy of a flower. What is the pistil and what is the stamen? And what's the difference between a male pumpkin flower and a female pumpkin flower? There's a lot to explore here, and much more in depth, plant cycle knowledge that you can learn outside of our own lesson. And I hope that this is a good introduction and exciting kind of beginning to explore this amazing process. So in our last lesson, we'll be exploring the next stage of the plant's life cycle, which is pollination and fruiting. And so this will be our last lesson. Our next one will be our last lesson. So I hope that you can come back in and enjoy your time until then. Thanks for joining me today. Bye, everyone.